The oxygen mask made it impossible to speak, which was probably a blessing. If I could have talked in that moment, watching my parents grab their jackets to leave me alone hours after emergency surgery, I might have said things that could never be undone. Instead, I blinked once for yes when Dad squeezed my hand and told me to hang in there, to be strong. Be strong, while my body was still in shock from having part of my colon removed, while the machines beside me beeped warnings about my unstable vitals, while I was terrified and in pain and couldn't even ask for a cup of water. Connor's team made the semifinals, Mom explained, as if that answered everything. This could change his whole future. You get that, right? I got it. I'd been getting it for 24 years. Connor's basketball games, Connor's grades, Connor's future. It always came first. My gallbladder had gone septic during my shift at the animal hospital. I'd driven myself to the emergency room, called them from the intake desk. They'd arrived just in time to sign the surgical consent forms before the nurses wheeled me back. And now they were leaving for a gymnasium 2 towns over. The nurse, Rosa, found me 40 minutes later, tears running silently down the sides of my face and soaking into the pillow. She checked my monitors with practiced efficiency, then stopped. "Where's your family, sweetheart?" I pointed to my throat, then mimed writing. She handed me a small dry erase board. "Brother's game," I wrote. Her face shifted through several emotions before settling into something carefully calm. "I see. Is someone coming back tonight?" I shrugged, then wrote back, "Depends on the final score." She didn't offer a polite laugh. Instead, she pulled a chair close to my bed. "My shift runs another 5 hours. I'll be right here." I shook my head and wrote back, "You really don't have to. I'm used to this." "That," Rosa said quietly, "is exactly the reason I'm staying." That small sentence cracked something open in me. Over the next 3 days, I learned things I hadn't expected to learn. I learned that recovering from major surgery alone is a different kind of pain than the physical kind. That other patients had family rotating through in shifts, bringing food and laughter and noise, while I had Rosa when she could break away, and silence when she couldn't. That my parents texted me updates about Connor's bracket, but never once asked how my pain levels were. I also learned I was finished. The breathing tube came out on the second morning. My first real words, hoarse and slow, were to Rosa. "I need to use my phone." "Family?" she asked, with a note of hope. "Moving company." She didn't press. She just handed me my phone and stepped outside to give me privacy. First call, my supervisor, Dr. Anita Marsh. She picked up on the second ring. "Jamie, oh, thank God, how are you? We've all been so worried." "Still here," I said, voice scratchy. "Listen, that position in Denver, the shelter partnership, is it still open?" A pause. "I thought you wanted to stay close to home." "Things look different from a hospital bed. Is it open?" "For you? Always. But Jamie, you just had surgery." "Which is exactly why I need somewhere new to recover, somewhere that isn't here." Silence. Then, "I'll make the calls. Just tell me when you can travel." 2 weeks. "You'll have housing and a flexible schedule waiting." Second call, my landlord. Month-to-month lease. Easy to end. Third call, a moving company. They could pack my whole apartment while I was still healing. Fourth call, my bank. To open accounts my parents had never seen and would never find. I'd been running my own life since I was 16, the day they forgot to pick me up from an outpatient procedure because Connor had an away game. This was just making it permanent. They came on the third afternoon, gas station flowers in hand. Connor wasn't with them. "How are you feeling?" Mom asked, perching on the edge of the visitor's chair like she was somewhere she didn't quite belong. "Like I had emergency surgery by myself," I said. Dad frowned. "We weren't gone that long, and Connor's team won. They're in the finals." "Congratulations." My voice was completely flat. I've been in this room for 70 hours. Well, we had to be there for the celebration. Mom folded her hands in her lap. You know how much this season means for his future. Right, his future. I reached for the bed remote and raised myself up so I could look at them directly. What about mine? They traded the look I'd seen 1,000 times, the one that meant I was being difficult, overreacting, missing the bigger picture that always had Connor in the center and me somewhere off the edge. You have a stable job, Dad said, a good apartment. Why would you need to? I'm moving to Denver. Silence. Mom's face moved through surprise, then irritation, then something close to offense. You can't just leave. What about Sunday dinners? What about being here for your brother? What about it? I asked. I haven't made it to Sunday dinner in 3 months. You haven't mentioned it once. And Connor doesn't need me. He has you. All of you. Every bit of it. That's not fair. Dad shifted in his seat. We love both our kids equally. Do you? I picked up my phone and pulled up the message history. Mom, how many texts have you sent me this week? She looked away. 0. But I can see you've messaged Connor's coach 11 times because you left me in the group chat. That's a different situation. Dad, what exactly do I do at work? He blinked. You work with animals. What kind of work? Silence. You're being overdramatic, Mom said, her automatic setting when the truth got uncomfortable. This is the pain medication. No, I said steadily. This is your daughter, the one who drove herself to the ER with a septic gallbladder because she already knew you wouldn't leave Connor's practice. The one who spent 3 days alone after surgery because a semifinal game mattered more. It was the semifinals, Dad said, like that still explains something. I could have died. I kept my voice quiet. Do you understand that? I could have died in this building while you were cheering in the stands. Mom's cheeks flushed. You're being dramatic. You're fine. Because of the surgical team, not because of family support. We're here now, Dad said, spreading his hands. For how long? As if the universe had been waiting, Mom's phone buzzed on cue. She glanced down automatically. Her face shifted. Oh, Connor needs... She stopped herself. Too late. I laughed. It pulled at my incision and I laughed anyway. Go. Whatever he needs, just go. We're not leaving, Dad said firmly. We're going to talk through this. I'm not throwing a tantrum, Dad. I'm 24 years old. I have a degree and a career and a whole life you've never once asked about. This isn't a scene. It's a goodbye. You don't mean that, Mom said, but she was already halfway to standing, already drifting toward the door like Connor's text was a tide pulling her out. I do. I'm leaving in 2 weeks. I won't be sending a forwarding address. But holidays, Mom said, as though that was the sharpest loss. What happens to holidays? You spent last Thanksgiving at Connor's tournament. Christmas? No, I said. I'm giving you permission to do it without pretending you have 2 children. And I'm giving myself permission to stop waiting for you to remember you do. After everything we've done, Mom started. What have you done? I asked. Not cruel, just honest. I got myself through school on scholarships and loans. I found my own apartment, built my own career, handled every hard moment alone. What exactly am I supposed to be grateful for beyond biology? They left after that. Mom crying about my cruelty, Dad muttering about ungrateful kids. Connor had needed someone to look up a restaurant reservation. They stopped to help him on the way home. I know because Mom sent me the confirmation screenshot meant for him. Rosa helped me sort out my discharge paperwork when the time came. My coworkers from the animal hospital packed my apartment over a weekend. Dr. Marsh flew in personally to drive me to Denver, her back seat loaded with pillows arranged so I could travel comfortably. Your parents? She asked as we pulled away. Connor made the finals. She nodded like that was a complete explanation, because it was. I recovered in Denver in a warm apartment 3 blocks from the shelter clinic. My new coworkers didn't know I had a brother, didn't know about the years of being the background character in my own family story. They just knew me as Jamie, the surgical tech who showed up early, stayed late, and went to the mat for every animal in her care. The calls came about 6 weeks later. Mom weeping about abandonment, Dad formal and stiff about duty, Connor genuinely confused about why I'd unfollowed him and who was supposed to proofread his scholarship essays now. I let them all go to voicemail. Instead, I built a life where I mattered, where my work was noticed, where people showed up. My new coworkers threw me a party for my first-year anniversary at the clinic. 18 people came. We had cake and terrible karaoke, and nobody checked their phone once. When I tried to thank them for coming, my colleague Bree just looked at me like the question didn't make sense. "Where else would we be?" she said. "You're our people." I cried right there in the break room, happy tears for once, because I had finally found people who... Connor got his scholarship. I saw it shared on a community Facebook page someone sent me. Local kid, big dreams. My parents were quoted in the caption, talking about their unwavering support, how they'd never missed a single game. The post asked if he had siblings. "He's our whole world," Mom was quoted as saying. For once, she told the complete truth. But I was blessed too, blessed with the clarity to stop sitting in empty waiting rooms for people who would always have somewhere more important to be. Blessed with the courage to go build a life where I was somebody's first call, not the number they got to eventually if there was time. My gallbladder had nearly killed me, but in a strange way, it gave me my life back. Because lying in that hospital bed, unable to speak, watching my parents choose a basketball game over their daughter's emergency surgery, I finally let myself see what had always been true. I wasn't the one walking away from my family. I was just the first one willing to say out loud that they'd walked away from me long ago. And once I said it, even just to myself in a quiet hospital room at 2 a.m, I was finally completely free.